Hey there, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Lights Girl Talk podcast. My name is Carol.
This is Alicia.
Hey, I'm Trisha.
And today we're talking mommy guilt.
Oh, yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Got it. Right here.
Big
Guilty.
elephant in the room. Oh, my word. So, I encountered a situation. The reason this is on my mind, I encountered a situation with a friend of mine today, or actually it was 2 days ago. She sent me a text and she said, look what my little girl sent me. And her daughter is about the same age as mine. And her daughter had just so beautifully said, Mom, I love you. And here are the things I appreciate about you. And I appreciate how hard you work for our family. And I appreciate all the things that you do for me. And you're always supporting me and all that things. And I was able to look at that text message and I was like, you're doing a great job. You know, and let that be a testimony to you're doing better than you think you are. And I think most of us are doing better than we think we are.
I hope so.
Don't we all hope?
That's exactly right.
Because we don't get that affirmation a lot of times,
No.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and especially when your kids are younger, I think it's harder. I mean, not that they come right out and say it when they're older, but I know now that I'm the age I am, I appreciate my mom and dad so much more than I did when I was
absolutely.
young.
You have
yeah.
a different lens,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and so what are some practical ways that I think for me, it was a big lesson to me that I need to be a cheerleader for the moms in my life. I need to say, Trisha, I love your boys and I love what you're doing with your boys and how you're so intent on, you know, serving them and loving them. I love that. And I just want to tell you, you're doing a good job. And I need to look at Alicia and say, you've been through kind of a rough patch. And I want you to know that you've with intention found ways to change your parenting style when you needed to. And you found ways to really minister to the heart of your kid, not just to the behavior of your kid. I need to say those things out loud and say, you're doing a great job.
And now, Carol, you are doing an awesome job raising your daughter with love, with respect, with kindness. You are modeling for her sacrifice. You're modeling for her hard work, but most of all, you're modeling for her love and love for Christ. You are doing an amazing job, and as a result, she is becoming an amazing young woman.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I think we need to rub those comments in.
Yeah.
And instead of competing so much, just become cheerleaders for each other because we all need it. I've not met one mom who's well, actually, I did meet one mom one time. When I first became a single parent, I shared all that. This cracks me up. I hadn't even planned on sharing this, but anyway. So I had shared I'm a single parent, blah, 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 blah. And this woman wrote me this long letter. And if you're listening to the podcast, I'm sorry. But she wrote me this long letter because I had just on the air one day talked about how inadequate I felt as a parent, and she was giving me the resume of her children, and she was like, I want to help you be a better parent.
Oh, no.
I didn't take her up on that.
Well, like the other day, I've been seeing this video on Facebook, and it was just this really great, encouraging story about a dad who got some foster children, decided that that's how he wanted to grow his family, and some of them had special needs. And I posted it on a friend's timeline who's a single mom of 4 children, some with special needs. And I was just like, I just want this to encourage you because he reminded me of what you're doing with your children. And I was just like, you're a great mom. They are so fortunate and blessed to have you as their mom. And she wrote me back this sweet note. But taking the time to do that, because I had thought of it one day and I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But then I saw it again, and I'm like, I really just need to do this. And how do I send it to her? So I just posted it on her wall.
That's
and
cool.
I think it's little things like that sometimes that can just help us feel better.
All right, so here's the challenge. The challenge for you, podcast listener, our friend, is to reach out to one mom today and be her cheerleader.
Yes.
And I think if it starts as a ground roots thing like that, I mean, man, the difference it can make. Because, I mean, we all have gone somewhere and, walked into work one day and people are like, are you sick? Because you don't look good.
You look
Or
tired.
I had a
hate
boss
you look tired.
once say, Alicia, you look tired.
I hate that.
And
That's
I'm
my
like,
least
do
favorite.
not tell me I look tired. We're in a meeting with all of
Yeah.
my peers. And
Even if you weren't tired, now you feel tired.
And I said, yes, I'm going to school and I have 2 little kids at home and I work for you. I'm very tired.
You're making me tired.
Well, so we got a prayer request the other day from a mom she said, today is overwhelming. I'm one person stretched a million ways. I'm an only child, so I have to help my mom who's in a nursing home. Juggling mom, work life, and kids is smothering. I need a shot of Superman strength. And can't we all kind of relate to that in different times
Yes,
of our
yes.
life? And we all have mom friends that are going through this, and she may be one of those silent types that she
You would
reached
never
out
know.
to us,
Mm-hmm.
but she may be holding it all together, helping her mother, dealing with her kids, just all the daily things we have to do as moms, working. But she's overwhelmed. She's struggling.
Yeah. And I think that's the powerful thing about encouragement, because the point I was trying to make is not, when people tell you you're sick, then you feel sick. But when people tell you you're doing a good job, you tend to see other ways to encourage other people.
Yes.
It's like the gift that keeps on giving.
It's like if someone
Yes.
made you feel good, you're like, oh, yeah, that
Right.
felt really good. I can do that. I can say that to someone else. That's, it's just a reminder.
And can we also take it in for ourselves, though? It is so much easier for me to look at you and tell you how much I admire your mother and Carol and Alicia and you, our friend. But I can't take it in very easily when someone compliments me. I want to tell you all the ways I've failed. I want to tell you all the things that I haven't done that I should have done, and the things that I did that I shouldn't have done. And so I think in addition to encouraging someone else, my personal journey, I want to try to be better at being okay with the one or two things that I am doing right. Like, can I take that in? Can I take that in?
Well, and I think we try to make these perfect lives, and there's all this, I saw a TED Talk the other day about how active we have our children these days, because we
Yes.
want them to get into a handful of colleges, and we want them to be one of these few careers, and everything we do is to guide them to that. But then are they missing out on things today? Are we not letting them be children?
Yeah.
And I think we get so busy and we have them in so many activities, and there's so much pressure, and it's gotten so much harder, I think, than when we were kids. I
Yes.
just don't remember being as
100% true.
busy. My mom didn't have us she had 3 kids, so it was a little bit harder. But I think now it's like, well, I want my kids to do all these things, but how do you fit it all in? And then you've guilt. Well, if I don't do the violin lessons, is she not going to be...
She's not getting into college.
She could be the next Yo-Yo Ma if I did that.
Right.
Well, I want to ask this question. I'm not sure if it's... I'm just going to ask it, because that's what we do here. We just talk it through.
We don't come up with solutions.
No. I just wonder if a lot of times our identity is tied up in how successful
Absolutely.
our kid
Sure.
is. And so
For sure.
that's part of where the mommy guilt comes from when they, because I was, this is a crazy story. I always have a story, but a couple of years ago, my daughter was learning how to roller skate. And we were out in the front, in front of her house, and she was roller skating, and I was trying to help her, and I found myself not teaching her so much how to skate, but how to fall. Because when she falls, she got to fall a certain way so she doesn't get hurt. And I think maybe that's our charge as moms, to teach our kids how to fall, because we live in a society where everything's not always going to work out. They're going to fail at times, and we got to let them fail, and we got to help them learn how to cope with that and how to recover from that and how to actually turn it into a positive thing and learn from it and not be afraid of that. And so I think part of our identity gets tied up in that, and that's where part of the guilt comes from, because
Or if we've had hurt in our lives because we didn't, I didn't get into my first or second or third or fourth, probably college of my choice. And so I think if I would have had more help, I would have been successful in that. So one of my charges as a parent is like, I want my children to be able to go to wherever they want to go to college. But I've kind of reset and reframed that a little bit to think that's, now that I'm older, that's not the end of the world if you don't go where you thought you were going to go. And God has a path for you. Like, I met my husband at college, and, I did go to college. It was a great experience. I have wonderful friends. Like, that's where I was supposed to be. I just didn't know it. But I had pain from that experience. And so I don't want my children to have that same pain. Or I think I've heard of some parents who they never got on the basketball team, and so they want their kids to be the basketball star, or they want that scholarship because they didn't get it. And then we're kind of living vicariously sometimes through our kids and doing everything we can to kind of make it the best experience so they don't have the pain. But I think you're right that the pain is something that they need to learn how, while they're in our homes, if they can learn that and we can walk them through it and teach them about it, they'd be better off.
That's very true. And additionally, I think they sense that we're doing that vicarious thing, putting all that pressure on ourselves and on them, and it creates anxiety in our kids.
Oh, absolutely.
Had this experience just the latter part of this school year. My son just didn't do homework for a while, just decided he wasn't going to do it. But I didn't know that, right?
Oh.
So I find out, and his grades went down, obviously. I'm like, what happened here? And he's like, well, I wasn't doing homework. I'm like, well, we got to deal with this. So what did I do? I emailed 2 of his teachers. I got on the stick. I made sure he redid his homework out of those stuff. And I'm like, why am I doing all this? Am I doing it for him?
Right.
Or am I doing it for me because I'm anxious that he's not going to get the best grade?
Yeah.
And what message am I sending him by, number one, coming to his aid by calling his teachers and emailing his teachers, and that it's only good if you get the best grade. It's
Right.
only good if you get an A.
Well, and I think
now, if
they
he ever
have
gets a
so
B,
much
he'll deal with that.
pressure.
And see,
There is-
I'm
'cause,
ramping
like,
it up on him.
Even when
I'm
I was
feeling
a
mommy
kid,
guilt.
when did they come out with elementary school honor society?
I
you
don't
know?
know.
And it's like there's so much pressure for
I
them to
never
get
worried
great
about that at
grades.
all. At all. I
I-
wanted to be on. I wanted to have a date. That's all. That's all I wanted. You know, grades were whatever.
But I think there is a lot of pressure for grades and
Oh, yeah.
all of this. And so I'm doing the same thing, Trisha, where I'm trying to say, okay, it doesn't matter if you don't get all A's. If a B is
Yeah,
great.
it's
a B
great.
is really good. That's a great job. But somehow my kids have learned on their own or at school. I'm trying to figure out where they're learning it, and I hope they're not learning it from me, because I'm trying to reset that also and to teach them. The straight A report card is, I'm trying not to make that the big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely reward the hard work, but
Right.
because one day they're not going to get the straight A's, or
Right.
they're going to fail at something. And then how do you, if I only reward that top level behavior, what's going to happen the day that it's not as good? But I think for some reason, kids these days have a harder time, and there's all this peer pressure. And I think there's parental pressure too.
Well, school's changed. I mean, the standardized test has changed
I know.
everything.
There's so much anxiety with that.
I can remember my child in second grade, and I don't think they started until third grade, right? But in second grade,
yeah.
in second grade, she was already talking about standardized testing and how
My
nervous she
son's
was about it.
school
That's
brought
pitiful.
in therapy dogs for testing week,
Is that right? That's
which
a
I thought
great
was
idea.
really
That is
interesting.
kind of
Like
an interesting idea.
I thought it was exciting, but at the same time, I'm like, the fact that we need
Yeah.
therapy dogs
What's it
for
telling ya?
testing.
Yeah, there's a greater message there, right?
Yeah.
So back to mommy guilt. How do you best deal with it?
I think time away to reflect, to have some time for yourself, I think, because otherwise you get caught in this
Yes.
whirlpool of thought, action, judgment. And if you have some time away to reflect, I think what happens for me is then I can fill my own cup. And then I can go back and be a better mom.
Splash everybody else.
That's right.
With your full cup.
That's right, my sippy cup.
That's right.
That's what I got going. I want to tell you about a friend of mine, because this came to my mind as we started talking about this, right? She was telling me, she's like, I just need some time away from my kids. And I was like, did you just say that? You just said that? That you can think that, but you can't say that to another woman. And I looked at her and she's like, yeah. And she's like, and so I'm going to take, so she's worked out this deal with her husband where she goes to yoga and she has all this time. And she's like, yeah, it's my time. It's my me time. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
But it was amazing me. And at first I was shocked. And then I was a little bit like, wow. But then I was like, I respect that.
Yes.
She can do that. She can say she needs that. Then she can ask for it, and then she can get it and not feel guilty about it.
Right.
Well, I had a couple weeks ago. I was going to take my daughter to one of her activities, and I can't remember the reason, but she didn't need to go that night, and I didn't realize it till I'd gotten home. And I just looked at my husband and I said, you know what? I was going to go to the bookstore and go to get a coffee and sit down in the cafe and just have a little time while she was at her activity. I'm still going to go do that.
Good for
And
you.
I had the best little, I was only gone for like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours tops.
What if it was 3? That would have been fine.
Right, but see, look what I'm doing right
you're
there.
excusing it.
Right, but
Yes.
it was great because I brought my notebook and
Yes.
book, and I had a nice coffee drink, and I just sat there and enjoyed time away by myself.
And I think you just hit the nail on the head. I think we need to build more margin in our lives.
That's a great word. I love the use of that word.
Yeah,
That's
I think we
exactly
need to be intentional about building margin so that we can appreciate the little things with our kids and get rid of some of that mommy guilt and not feel like. Now, there are people who definitely take it to the extreme and say, they have me time all the time. And we're not advocating that because children are a gift from the Lord.
Absolutely.
And we want to truly appreciate those gifts. And I think we just are running so fast and so hard that we don't build in time to really reflect and to breathe and to write down. I'm a big journaler, so I tend to try to write down those mommy wins when I get them so that on those days when I'm feeling very guilty, I can turn back to those and revisit them. And I also think that discussions like this are so powerful. If you don't have a group of girlfriends that you can get together with and really share your heart and what's going on and you feel guilty for this or that, and let them talk you through and encourage you, because that not only strengthens you, but it strengthens them too.
Yes.
And that's what we, that's why we do this. That's why we do this podcast, because we want to help you grow. We want to grow ourselves, and we all want to grow in our relationship with God. So thank you so much for being a part of our discussion today on the Lights Girl Talk podcast. We'll see you next time.